A warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima, but first are the headlines. President Museveni orders army to build schools and health centers. Beneficiaries in Kampala district complain for the delay of relief cash. Former South African President Zuma begins a sentence. And in sports, Nanyondo Nakai seek Monaco glory ahead of Tokyo Olympics. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Museveni has directed the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education to use Uganda People's Defence Forces to implement construction projects in this financial year. Our reporter Nalugo has more.
In a July 1st letter to the Ministry of Health and that of Education and Sports, the President said the move will reduce time wasted in procurement processes and save funds. In his letter, Mr. Museveni said that with effect from the financial year 2021-2022, all new construction projects for health facilities and schools must be undertaken by the Army Construction Brigade as a pilot project. This directive will be gradually extended to cover other sectors of government, the Senior Presidential Press Secretary, Ms. Linda Napsai, confirmed yesterday. President Museveni said the UPDF has developed capacity and they have saved a lot of money and time by contracting it in several projects. In the allocation, the Ministry of Education is to spend more than 40 billion Ugandan shillings on emergency construction of school facilities in primary and secondary schools this financial year. The Ministry of Health will also spend more than 30 billion Ugandan shillings in construction projects in the same period. The President's directives will affect the procurement system since some projects' implementation had already been started and ministries were waiting for more funds to complete them. The government has been pushing for open bidding for construction projects, which experts said leads to transparency and accountability.
Moving on Thursday morning, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Nabanja, launched the disbursement of the COVID-19 relief cash across the country. However, beneficiaries in Kampala district have complained for the delay to receive their money. Our reporter Kawala has more.
Yesterday, Godfrey Olanya, a border rider from Gulu, on Thursday morning became the first beneficiary of the government COVID relief cash to vulnerable Ugandans. Data complication for Kampala beneficiaries of COVID-19 relief fund is expected to drag on until the end of the week. The latest delay is said to have emanated from the development of a new computer software provided by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, which is spearheading the disbursement. But city authorities hope that those whose data has been submitted will have the money remitted immediately. Godfrey Kanyike, the acting chairman of Ziksoka Zone Salama Parish Machinde Division, says they faced a challenge where most citizens were not on the list.
Obuyambi bwa minisita nga bwe yawogerako obw'emitwalo 10,000 bangi baali basigadde ebweru. Batwalayo okwemulugunya kwaffe naye mu luvannyuma ne batuddiramu ne batuwa empapula empya. Batuwa empapula empya netutandika okurijasitalinga abatuuze baffe. Era twarijasitalinga bangi twawezaawo kumpi 5,000 n'abalala twabaleka bbali olw'obudde.
However, they complained and had to register all people who they think are vulnerable.
kasimu sikalabako sente abaana bange n'abaana bana sifunangako kyakulya nkole ki
ezo gyemitwalo 10 tusiganye mujja gituweereza naye tegirina kyegitukolera sisobola giryako wiiki nguleko sukaali nguleko sabbuuni nguleko omuli nguleko emmere akawunga n'ebijanja ziba tezirina kyezigenda kukola kumalanga mwezi mulamba tetumanyi gye tulaga mu maaso oba wonoddamu okwogera ojja twogerayo tetumanyi.
Tusuubira nti no ssente ezo zijja tutuukako. Abatuuze basanyufu bangi beewandiisizza era balindiridde bajja ne batubuuza zo ssente ziriwa kuba mukyala Nabbanja yagamba by Wednesday ate kati ne bagamba by Thursday, so they are eagerly waiting for that money.
Some citizens who we spoke to say they still have hope for the money, although not sure when they will get it. Kasasa John Bosco, a resident of Ziksoka zone in Machindia division, asked the government to hurry up the process before the situation goes out of hand.
Nsaba gavumenti yanguyeko ssente ezo obuyambi obwo ne Mukama atusaasire tugezezzaako oba erina enkola endala gye tuyinza okwetaasamu obulwadde yekkiriza abantu okwenoonyeza 10 kyalibadde kirungi kubanga abantu abamu beeraliikirivu nnyo wano mu Kampala bangi batafuna na buwunga mu biseera biri. So nsaba gavumenti etuyambe etwanguyizeeko.
A total of 40,000 people are expected to receive the COVID-19 relief fund in Kampala and over 500,000 households across the country. Kawala Aisha reporting for TV Africa.
Away from that, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has reportedly raised questions about the honesty of Ministry of Health officials headlining the fight against COVID-19 and threatened during a cabinet meeting to arrest the thieves. We have more.
At the said meeting, Health Minister Jane Ruth Aceng tabled a 1.2 trillion Ugandan shillings budget that she said would help bankroll government's response to the second wave of the pandemic, according to sources that attended the sitting. Coronavirus struck Uganda in March 2020 and has, according to official statistics released by the Health Ministry yesterday, killed 2,012 people in the country. In the early stages, the Health Ministry was praised for their strong leadership and response that tamed the epidemic's damage in the country. However, the Auditor General later raised queries about the handling of resources for fighting the pandemic, spotted contracts prepaid before signing, and reported about questionable procurements. On June 25th, President Museveni, during the 4th televised national prayer, publicly grilled Minister of Health Permanent Secretary Dr. Diana Atwine on why 42,000 hospital beds that he ordered a year ago were not in place. Dr. Atwine said that they had picked 2 local bed suppliers and delays in installation relate to the difficulty that would-be manufacturers face in importing required materials. These and other concerns, such as oxygen deficit, exorbitant billing for COVID patients by private hospitals, unpaid health workers, slowed vaccination and delayed COVID cash relief disbursement, has stoked public anger against the Ministry of Health.
Let's take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Right to Know. The government of South Sudan has ordered the population to celebrate the 10th anniversary of its independence in private officially because of COVID-19. The country, which officially came into being on July 9, 2011, before plunging into a bloody civil war between 2013 and 2018, has not held a ceremony for the occasion since 2014. Let's take a look.
According to Deputy Information Minister Baba Medan, South Sudanese ministers expressed concerns about holding possible events in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic during a government meeting on Wednesday. Minister Baba told reporters after the meeting that the President of South Sudan, His Excellency Salva Kiir, ordered the citizens of South Sudan to celebrate in their own homes. The Deputy Minister added that President Salva Kiir would make a public speech so that everyone will see it on their television or hear it on their radio, and they will also avoid any public health problems. The swearing-in of members of the reconstituted parliament, which had been announced in late May, was initially announced but was postponed without further details. The Deputy Minister said that the only public event announced is a 10-kilometer race called the Great South Sudan Run, which started at 5 a.m. in the capital, Juba.
United Nations Security Council members on Thursday backed African Union mediation efforts between Ethiopia, Egypt and Sudan in a dispute over the operation of a giant hydropower dam on the Blue Nile in Ethiopia, urging the parties to resume talks.
A famous Ethiopian proverb underscores this point. Gowwan bishaan keessa dhaabbatee eebota, or Yabbayn lij wuhaa xamma.
Egypt and Sudan both called on the UN Security Council to help resolve the dispute after Ethiopia earlier this week began filling the reservoir behind its Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam for a second year. Ethiopia is opposed to any Security Council involvement. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, told the Council that a balanced and equitable solution to the filling and operation of the gulf can be reached with political commitment from all parties. Ethiopia says the dam is crucial to its economic development and provide power, although Egypt views it as a grave threat to its Nile water supplies, on which it is almost entirely dependent, while Sudan has expressed concern about the dam's safety and impact on its own dams and water stations. Tunisia has proposed a draft Security Council resolution that would call for a binding agreement between Ethiopia, Sudan and Egypt on the operation of the giant dam within 6 months, although it was not clear if or when it could be put to a vote. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which will be the largest in Africa, once completed, it is expected to generate more than 6,000 megawatts of electricity. Justice Philip Odoch ruled that and issued an order against the respondents to intervene by making regulations on fees chargeable by hospitals on management and treatment of persons suffering from COVID-19. The issued order also compelled the second respondent, Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council, to make recommendations to the Ministry of Health on reasonable fees for persons seeking and accessing COVID-19 treatment from hospitals, with each party bearing its own costs. Lawyers representing the petitioners had wanted court to issue timelines to government for effecting its orders, but Justice Odoch declined, arguing that since there is goodwill from government to sort out this fees mess, there was no need. The judge added that in case the government does not comply with his orders, then the petitioners can always come to court for enforcement. This case was filed about 2 weeks ago as Mr. Mulumba and Sehard sought court intervention over high medical bills that private hospitals were charging COVID-19 patients following the recent second wave of COVID-19. Moving on, for more than 20 years in Beni region of the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo has been engulfed in conflict between rival rebel groups. Over the years, one group has become more feared than the rest. The Allied Democratic Forces, who are accused of the massacre of several thousand civilians, are now on the run after the DRC army intervention. We have more.
According to Lieutenant Anthony Mwalshayi, spokesperson for Congolese Army's Operation Sokola, an operation against the Allied Defense Forces in Beni, People have bad memories when it comes to Mwenda because some people lost several family members, which forced the army to intervene to get the enemy to leave the area. On May 6, President Felix Tshisekedi decreed a state of siege in Nord Kivu and Ituri, vowing to stamp out the armed groups, the Allied Defense Forces in particular, which he described as having an Islamic linking. The DRC's Catholic Church says the ADF has massacred around 6,000 civilians since 2013, a toll that has risen sharply since 2019, when the militia appears to have become more radicalized. As they attack, the ADF men loot everything in their path: telephone kiosks, stores of soap, rice, maize, and medicines. Like other armed groups, they are interested in the region's resources, but go for timber and cocoa more than minerals.
Away from that, Jacob Zuma on Thursday began a 15-month sentence for contempt of court, becoming post-apartheid South Africa's first president to be jailed after a drama that campaigners said ended in a victory for rule of law.
Jacob Zuma, 79, reported to prison early Thursday after mounting a last-ditch legal bid and stoking defiance among radical supporters who had railed at his rural home. His battle transfixed the country, placing a spotlight on the issue of impunity and tension within the ruling African National Congress. The former corruption booster, Thierry Mandasera, hailed it as a glorious day, in that it says that the rule of law prevails. The opposition Democratic Alliance say that the law cannot be mocked and challenged with the impunity, stressing that if the leader can go to prison, then so can anyone. But it cautioned that the contempt sentence did not address the wider corruption, fraud, racketeering, and money laundering that proliferated under Zuma. Zuma has been also accused of involvement in a bribery affair dating back more than 20 years. He faces 16 charges of fraud, graffiti, and racketeering relating to a 1999 purchase of fighter jets, petrol boats, and military gears from the 5 European arms firms for 30 billion rand, then the equivalent of nearly 5 billion. Kawala Aisha reporting for TV Africa.
Let's once again take a very quick short break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, a huge rough diamond, an impressive stone with a silver sheen that fits in the palm of a hand, was discovered in June in Botswana, which, according to the Canadian company Lucara, and the hierarchy of large stones, ranks third. We have more.
The 1,174-carat gem discovered on June 12th steals third place on the podium of the world's largest diamonds from another exceptional stone found a few days earlier on June 1st in the same country but by another mining company. While presenting the precious stone to the government in Gaborone, Lucara's managing director Nassim Lahiri said that this was a historic discovery for them as a company and for Botswana as well.
Look at the large stones and the hierarchy of the large stones, it actually sits as number 3 in the hierarchy. But as I've been speaking to the media today, we take over the leaderboard in terms of the 10 largest stones. We've got 60% of those, and 5 out of those 6 belong to Lucara, Botswana.
This latest discovery reinforces Botswana's position as a leader on the world's largest stone scene with 6 of the world's largest diamonds. President Mokwesi Masisi hailed this fascinating moment and the increasing frequency of diamond discoveries in the country.
And take delight in the frequency, which hopefully would increase, by which we receive such large stones, so that it becomes our, not second nature, but first nature.
The 1,098-carat diamond discovered on June 1st belongs to the Debswana company, jointly owned by the government and South African diamond maker De Beers. The largest known diamond is the Cullinan, over 3,100 carats, discovered in South Africa in 1905.
In our health news today, the High Court in Kampala has issued orders compelling government to regulate the skyrocketing medical fees currently charged for treating and managing COVID-19 patients. This followed a consent agreement between government representatives and civil society organization Center for Health, Human Rights and Development that petitioned court over the exorbitant medical fees.
This followed a consent agreement between government representatives and Mr. Moses Mulumba, the executive director of a civil society organization, Center for Health, Human Rights and Development, that had petitioned court over the exorbitant medical fees. Justice Philip Odoch ordered government to intervene by making regulations on fees chargeable by hospitals on management and treatment of COVID-19 patients, and second responded to Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council to make recommendations to have the Ministry of Health on reasonable fees for persons seeking and assessing COVID-19 treatment from hospitals. Lawyers representing the petitioners had wanted court to issue timelines to government for effecting its orders, but Justice Odok declined, arguing that since there is goodwill from government to sort out this fees mess, there was no need. The judge added that in case the government does not comply with his orders, then the petitioners can always come to court for enforcement. Each party bears its own costs.
In our sports news today, with 14 days left before the Tokyo Olympics get underway, Ugandan athletes Winnie Nanyondo and Harima Nakai are set to test themselves in Monaco. The duo, who have already qualified for the Olympics, will be running the women's 1,500 meters and 800 meters respectively against elite fields at the Stade Louis II. Our reporter Kachanchu has more.
Nanyondo heads into the 1,500-meter race after claiming top honors over the same distance at a Spanish club, Xilanuncia, about a month ago. She faces tough competition from current Olympic champion Kenyan Faith Kipyego and Dutch 10,000-meter world record holder Hassan Sifani. Nakai dives back into action 8 days after crossing the Spanish line in second place at the Oslo Bislett Games in Norway. The 2019 World Cup Championship gold medalist will have to upstage Jamaica's Golin Atoya, Ethiopian Alem Habitam, plus Brice Rikijema and Laura Murray.
Now, before we end our news bulletin today, let's take a recap of our top stories. President Museveni orders army to build schools and health centers. Beneficiaries in Kampala district complain for the delay of relief cash. Former South African President Zuma begins a sentence. And in sports, Nanyondo Nakai seek Monaco glory ahead of Tokyo Olympics. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
This is Africa, and that was the news.